Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's Monday today. I'm doing an unusual tea time on a Monday this week. And as you see, I have Atlas with me. And on the other side here, I have Ram. Hi, Ram. So it's almost Christmas. We're in December now. And I've decided for the week around Christmas, I am going to take a week without technology. So what that means is that it's just going to be me and the horses and probably some cameras, but no internet, and just a little bit more focused time. This is my Christmas present to myself. So that's why we are doing tea time on Monday this week. Would you like to speak to everybody, Ram? Yes. Hi, Ram. As most of you guys know, I lost my mom this year, and a couple of key animal friends that have seen me through a lot of years. There's been a lot of change and a lot of loss in my life this year. And I thought over the holidays, the thing that would probably help me the most is to really focus in with the animals. And so I will be doing some filming because that's what I do, but I'm going to save it all and share it next week. So for 1 week, it's just going to be me and the horses. But before then, I wanted to talk a little bit about, what it is our horses need from us. I really think that I love freedom-based training. This is, it's everything I want it to be. But it is a very slow, gentle evolution. And the thing that the horses don't get from us, or they don't get from me, when I'm really focused on freedom, is an education on how to handle pressure. And this is something I'm thinking about a lot because I did a small clinic outside of the realm of what I normally teach for a rescue in Arlington home. Big shout out to you guys at home and all the horses you are taking care of and finding new homes for. I gathered with some of their volunteers and we did a day talking about pressure because I really feel like this is the reason that horses end up in a rescue. Horses end up in a rescue because they do not know how to respond to pressure. When a horse feels pressure and they don't know how to respond, they're going to defend themselves. And that's going to come out in their fight, their flight, or their freeze. When horses develop too much of a habit defending themselves, people don't want them anymore. People don't have a home. They don't have time for them. They don't want to pay for their food. And there's no new people lining up to give that horse a home. And so what we have is rescues like home who are willing to take these horses who are uneducated. They don't know how to respond to pressure, or they're educated incorrectly. And then it's their job, their volunteers and their staff, it's their job to re-educate horses around the meaning of pressure. Now, what is the meaning of pressure? Pressure exists all the time around us. But the thing is, pressure will either push us to cooperate more or pressure will push us to defend ourselves more. If we think that defending ourselves is the right outcome or the right response to pressure, we're going to have less friends. We're going to have less of a community that's willing to help us out. And so if a horse ends up in a rescue, it's because they have been put in positions where they repeatedly practiced defending themselves against pressure, and it worked. It worked in enough ways that they repeated it again and again and again, and it became normal. And that's certainly, what I have here with my big blonde guy, Atlas. He has had a lot of repetitions where defending himself against people was the right response. It's the thing that saved him. Nobody ever educated him or put him in situations where he realized that he could cooperate with people when he felt pressure instead of defending himself. And so this isn't really what I do in freedom-based training directly. In freedom-based training, I take the slowest possible route to teaching horses to work cooperatively with people. But if you choose to take that slow route, what ends up happening is you are now responsible for making sure the horse is not put under so much pressure that they learn to defend themselves from it. If you're going to take the slow route, which I do, you have to put the horse in a very safe situation. If you put the horse in a situation where they feel pressure that's unreasonable for them, that they're not educated about, they will defend themselves. And the more times they do that, the more that becomes a habit. And the more the horse develops a habit of fight, flight, or freeze, fight and flight being the more problematic of the two, the more they become a horse that nobody wants to have. So I'm not a trainer that addresses this directly. I'm a trainer that addresses this indirectly. It's the way I like to do it. I like the slow study. But if we take the slow study, it becomes a very important responsibility that we don't put those horses in situations where they're going to respond badly. Because the more often we put those horses in situations where they respond badly, the more that becomes their pattern. And that's not what they need from us. So, this is an interesting thing I've been doing a lot of meditating on recently, which is if you're going to put your horse in a situation where they feel more pressure, it's really your responsibility to track down the right kind of dominant training that allows them to become educated with what to do with dominant pressure. And I include food reward training in that list of dominant training. Because anytime you have a resource that you are not sharing with the horse, that is a pressure. They will feel the pressure of the fact that you have the food, they want the food, and it's not in their mouth yet. And the question is, do they know how to respond to that pressure? So if they respond well to that pressure, they're going to be cooperative. They're going to collaborate with you. They're going to do activities that you appreciate so that they work with you to sort through the pressure. If they don't know how to respond to that pressure, they are going to start being threatening, or they're going to run away, or they're going to defend themselves. So there's lots of good dominant trainers in the world. I don't really want to be one of them, but I do feel it's my responsibility to mention, if you want to take a really slow path like I do, where it takes years to teach a horse how to respond to pressure well, because we do it in such tiny increments. If that's the path you want to take, your job is to put that horse in a very safe home and environment where they don't get exposed to pressures that are going to overwhelm them, and they don't develop habits of responding badly. Now, this is a very personal thing for me right now, because Atlas there is a horse that's had a lot of bad history. He has a lot of habits of responding badly to people. About 2 weeks ago, it was raining a lot. All of my clothes were wet from the rain. I ended up wearing a different raincoat. It made some noise. The noise my raincoat made was too much pressure for my darling golden boy Atlas over there. I didn't realize that we were setting up a pattern of him trying to go to flight every time he saw me. I didn't realize it until we were about a week into this pattern. It's taken me another several weeks to try and undo the damage I did from exposing him to the noise of my coat, which was too much for him, and then letting him repeat it in small ways. It was subtle. It wasn't dramatic. If it had been dramatic, I might have noticed. It was very subtle, but it was repeated often. So if you put your horse in a situation where you scare them over and over, and they run away from you over and over, this is not useful to the horse. It's not useful to the community. It's not useful to the herd. They need us to make a choice. Either we are going to push them through that fear, where we scare them and then we keep using variations of pressure until they realize a different response is more useful to them. That would be dominance. Or if we're doing to lean in the slower, more gentle way of training, our responsibility is don't go there. Don't put that kind of pressure on the horse until you've broken down all the small pieces and taught them one little increment at a time how to respond in a positive way, not a self-defensive way. So I'm thinking about that a lot with Atlas. He's a horse that I end up making a lot of mistakes with. And so this next week over Christmas, I'm going to shut down all my devices. I'm going to stop answering emails for a week. We've got an automated response if you email me. I'm going to turn off my phone, and I'm going to spend some time with Atlas seeing if we can put more hours in. I don't really want to be more dominant, but I do want to see if I can wrap my head around what he needs from me so that I don't keep making so many mistakes, scaring him, and then having these big backslides in progress because I'm allowing him to repeatedly practice his self-defense maneuvers instead of his cooperative relationship skills with me. So, Andrea says 3 is the golden number. I remember us mulling that over. Yeah, well, it does seem to be things run in 3s, doesn't it, Andrea? So these are my thoughts today. You know, I'm going to take a week. I'm going to do a hyper focus with Atlas. I'm going to really see if I can learn some things around how do I go slow enough that I break down all the pieces and I don't have to put a lot of pressure on him, but he still becomes more educated about pressure. And absolutely, that question, how can I help you? It's such a valuable question. It's just mistakes are inevitable. We are going to make mistakes. The question is, how do we see a mistake? And a mistake is anything that causes our horse to defend themselves instead of working cooperatively with us. And then when we see that mistake, how do we fix it? If you're going to fix it in a more dominant way, you push them through their self-defense until they come out the other side and they learn a different response. If you're going to do it in a less dominant way, you would break it down into smaller pieces so that you help them understand each small piece of a bigger problem and how to respond cooperatively to the small pieces before they get all the pieces coming at them at the same time. So, second one is what I'm going to try and do with Atlas there. We are going to invest some time in breaking things down into smaller pieces. And I really want to teach him how to respond to pressure in a cooperative way, not in a self-defensive way. But I want to break those pieces down so small that I don't feel like I have to push him through fear. Partially because he has a history of attacking people, and I'm not sure I would be safe trying to push him through fear. So with a horse that has a dangerous history, we get forced into the slower route. If we are forced into that slower route, we need to make sure that the horse is safe enough that they're not practicing the wrong thing, that they are safe enough they're practicing cooperating, not defending. So thank you, Sandra. Yep, this is my Christmas present to myself. So on that note, I'm going to say Merry Christmas to you all. I hope you have a wonderful holiday wherever you are in the world, whatever you're doing. And I will be back next Tuesday.